The Vatican is making history with the approval of Pope Francis that the Roman Catholic priests can administer blessings to same-sex couples as long as they're not part of regular church rituals or liturgies. However, the Vatican also said it should in no way be confused with the sacrament of heterosexual marriage. Let's explore what all this means and the impact on the LGBTQIA+ community. And we are joined by Maria Sjodin, who is the Outright International Executive Director. Maria, good evening to you and welcome. Thank you for your time. It's a big moment, dubbed by some as a major step forward. How does Outright feel about this?
It is very important to see this as a step forward for acceptance. And of course, I mean, for people who are Catholic or religious, it will be important for them to be able to get the blessing for their same-sex relations. But from Outright's perspective as a global organization for LGBTIQ people, we look at it more as like the Vatican has political influence, and it's a fact that many religious leaders today condone discrimination and sometimes even violence against LGBTIQ people. So to have the Pope as a world leader pronounce this increase of respect for same-sex couples and increased recognition is an important step forward towards tolerance and acceptance. And so we are hoping to see that Vatican would take this even further. We are very active at the United Nations, for example, and we would love to see the Vatican using their observer status there not to block or stop progress when it comes to human rights for LGBTIQ people, but to actually be more open and express tolerance and acceptance in all of the spaces where they act.
Maria, two important points you're raising there, which I'd love to follow up on. Do you hope that this will be just one step in a journey towards full recognition, perhaps even a marriage blessing inside a Catholic church with a priest?
I think it's always very difficult to say how different religions and religious leaders are going to engage. And I don't think it would be difficult for me to speculate whether this will be one step or not. From my perspective, I think it is even more important that the Pope and the Vatican use their leadership in the world to promote tolerance and acceptance, not just for those who are religious and seeking, a blessing or seeking a marriage condoned by the church, but that they use their voice in the world to promote tolerance, respect, and acceptance for LGBTIQ people.
Well, one US professor said, let's go then to the text and the wording of it, said it invites misunderstanding and will sow confusion. Define for us practically what this means for those in the LGBTIQA+ community who practice Catholicism and who want to get married.
I think there are lots of people who are looking for this blessing and who will take it, even if, they may have had hopes. But there are, when we look at it from the global perspective, I mean, countries manage marriage in different ways. In some places, you can get married in a church. In some other places, you have to get a civil marriage, and then you can have a marriage ceremony in the church as well. So I think for people who are religious and who want this blessing, I think for many of them, this will be most welcome.
So again, just to go to the practical side of it in terms of what actually happens, there are some restrictions inherent, we understand, like the blessing, you should not be timed with the civil marriage ceremony, it can't be performed with the clothing, the gestures or words that are proper to a wedding. So paint a picture for us, here is a couple who either has been married outside of the church itself, as you say, in a civil ceremony. What happens from that point on?
So I think in reality that this will be, most likely, this will look a little bit different in different places, also depending on the priest that the couple are connected to. So I think it would be premature for me to try to say exactly how this is going to roll out and what it's going to look like in different places.
But what is your understanding? I mean, I'm thinking tonight, given, as you say, even politically, this is a major move, even in terms of, the progress that it means for people who are religious. And this blessing, this recognition is just something that's been so missing and has left their union, hollow in a way. What can they expect to happen? Is there legal interpretation from your side, from experts that an expert that you are and experts that you work with who say, okay, possibly, let's say in the United States, this is what it would look like?
So I don't think that there's not exactly a legal interpretation to this. So this will be something that has a religious importance and a blessing that happens outside of sort of the legal marriage. And so I think that's why, but obviously for many people, that is still a very important component, to have a religious component to their marriage and to their wedding ceremonies, how they build it. But
yeah.
I think it's very clear that this is not to be equated with marriage. It's not a step towards marriage equality, or it's not a step towards a full recognition of same-sex couples being married in the eyes of the Catholic Church. But it is a step forward because it is a way to receive that religious blessing.
I think that's a very important clarification, Maria, as you say. By legal, I'm meaning more the edicts of the church in terms of the way that it would run things that are, subject to particular rules and a way of operation within the Vatican. And also we could possibly see, because we're seeing online now, again, there's a whole debate raging about what does it exactly mean? How could it look to the points that you're raising in different countries? A process that perhaps is going to identify itself, take some shape as the months, unfold and people actually go ahead and get that blessing based on what they understand this to mean now. But going back to the point you made earlier, that many religious leaders condone violence. Many, countries with the backing of their jurisprudence and their politics back discrimination. That you're hoping this is going to be a psychological kind of way to move forward, to encourage people to think differently, to even express and practice a lot more tolerance. Just share with us how, what your evangelism is going to be over the next couple of months, now that you have won this important victory, in a sense, as it's being described.
So, there are still 65 countries in the world that criminalize same-sex relations, typically as a holdover of the colonial era. And so we've seen a few countries get rid of these laws in recent years, and that is incredibly important. But the fact that there are still 65 that criminalize same-sex relations is critical. And we have seen countries moving towards making not just the same-sex relations themselves illegal, but basically making it more difficult for people to join an organization, to speak out about what it means to be an LGBTIQ person, to be LGBTIQ in the public sphere, if you will. So I am really hoping that this statement from Pope Francis will have a reach across the world among Catholics, but also among other world leaders, to see that there is a way forward towards acceptance and tolerance, and that it will at least curb some of the most discriminatory and violent ways that we see hate towards LGBTIQ people spread in many places.
Maria, thank you very much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Outright International's Executive Director, Maria Sjodin.